Welcome, everybody. My name is Mikey Mhenna. I'm the host for today's Quartertones episode with my very good friend, Nasser Shurbaji, who is also known as Chyno. Nasser is a Filipino-Syrian rapper based in Beirut, and who's a producer and sort of a multi-hyphenate creative guy who's always up to a bunch of different stuff. He performs under the stage name Chyno with a Y. Chyno has played a major behind-the-scenes role in developing Lebanon's hip-hop community and the broader community, I would say. He is a Warner Music Middle East artist. On the ground, he co-founded The Arena, a battle rap series for which regional hip-hop acts spar it out at various locations across Beirut, and was one of the core members of the extremely influential hip-hop group Fari al-Atrash. Chyno, welcome to Afikra.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's good. How you doing?
I'm cool. I'm at the Starship Enterprise over here, and it's
I love it.
It's either that or I'm back at the bank. You know, it's one of the two.
One of the two. So we're friends. So I feel like I have put you in a position where I get to ask you questions that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable asking you, just like socially, that are a little more formal questions about your work and your approach to music. But let's start by going backwards. I'm curious, what is the first album that you remember buying that introduced you to the world of hip hop? We're about the same age, kids of the 80s. So what's the first album that you're like, oh yeah, I played that front to back, no skips, a million times. That's really what made me love the idea of writing verses.
Oh, okay. Because the first hip hop album I ever bought was Naughty by Nature, 1993. Back in
the black and white cover.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not really sure because I was in Saudi Arabia, so it was a bootleg cassette. You know,
so it could have been photocopied.
I'm not really sure if that was a for real album cover. But the first album that really made me like, oh, I really want to write, was Nas. It was written and Bone Thugs and Harmony Crossroads. I just felt like, oh, this is so cool. It sounds so different. I love the flows, and you know, so it was like inspired me in two different aspects.
Were you always like drawn towards the sort of the social commentary of Nas? Was that what like hooked you in?
I'm not really sure, man. I think it was when I was living in Saudi Arabia, especially at the early age, you know, like when I'm between 9 to 12, I had my school friends, but I didn't have a lot of friends outside of school. And I think when I started watching hip hop videos, it was that community vibe that got me into it. And I never really fit in anywhere. So they look different. So I was like, I want that, you know, like when I watched Hip Hop Hooray as a video, it was like a big community,
party,
right?
Yeah,
it's a huge party. They're just hanging around, and I love basketball, so they were by the basketball courts. It's just, you know, this subconsciously a bunch of cool things that I really liked, you know, and that was my introduction to hip hop. It was very aesthetic. It was like this community based, this need, you know, to be with people. And then when I started listening to Nas, and I was like, cool, the words, so cool, you know, and then I became like infatuated with words.
Was that the genre that you always listened to, or were you also like a Nirvana kid that like sort of went back and forth?
No, like I listened to some rock because all my brothers were into rock. So my older brother was like, you know, he played the guitar. Philippines was just always into alternative rock. So I was introduced to that stuff by him, but I wasn't really, you know, I wasn't really into it too much. I've been listening to hip hop, and hip hop is what introduced me to other genres, you know? So, I mean, before I listened to hip hop as a kid, I would go into my uncle's shop in Syria. His name is Chyno. He was like one of the first guys who opened a music shop in Syria, like back in like 84, you know, 85.
What city?
In Damascus. And he's still open. I think he's going to close down soon, but he's been open since then. I would go and be like, yo, I want a rock and roll cassette tape, and he'd just give me a mixtape, and I would listen to that, you know. So I didn't know much about music until I listened to hip hop, and it became like the genre that was for me, you know.
Yeah. When you were like, so let's sort of paint some of the picture. There's a ton of people who listen to hip hop growing up, right? Like me, myself included, who never actually put pen to paper to write a full verse. Like Dame Lillard has the 4-bar Fridays, right? Everyone has 4 bars, right? I have 4 bars. But very few people are like, all right, I actually want to do this, to like actually write full verses and then record them seriously. When did you actually like think to yourself, like, I am a rapper? I don't like to rap. I am a rapper.
Bro, I felt like that from day one.
Really?
You know, like even when I was rapping like terribly, and I have like video to prove it. You know, I had like a concert back in like 2000 in Syria, and I have the whole concert, like us wearing like mad baggy pants and, you know, fitted ons and, you know, basketball jerseys. It was horrendous, bro.
Amazing.
But the footage is amazing, and I sucked.
Please make that the background, the B-roll of your next video, please.
Anyways, it was just hilarious. I sucked, but I had the confidence, and I can see it in myself. You know, like I'm watching that video, and I'm like, bro, you suck with so much confidence. But you know, I was watching the Jay-Z's Hall of Fame speech.
Yeah, me too. The Chappelle bit
recently, and he was talking about like one of his first verses and how he said it sucked so much, you know, and how for him it's so hip hop to know, like not understand, to have so much confidence that you don't even know you suck and you just go for it. And then they opened up their own label, you know, because people didn't really like what he did. So I felt that's what I did as well. I had to like just fucking push on, get better, not take no for an answer. And yeah.
It's funny because like I've always I don't think I've ever told you this, but of all of my sort of like friends who create stuff and make music or make art and stuff like that, you've always given me Dave Chappelle vibes in general, which is this idea that's like this like quiet confidence, interest in community first, right? Like you're simultaneously a loner, but also interested in community, right?
That's a good breakdown of my personality.
And like there's a lot of stuff in your work that's like about community, is about bringing people together. Like Arena, just now we were talking about the School of Hip Hop that you just finished. Why for you is community so essential to your work? Like as somebody who's like generally kind of wants to kick it on their own and chill.
Yeah, I think maybe that stems from my lack of having a community, not assimilating so much with, you know, in the countries that I grew up in. And I even growing up, I have this tendency to find a friend, you know, out of a group and then befriend that person. And, you know, like I didn't have like groups that I hung out with. I never had a group. I just fit into different groups because of certain friends I liked from them. And the community vibe I got was really from Farid Al-Atrash, you know, who like John Nasser, who tried to like bring in all these people. And I felt like I needed to do that. I loved, you know, how Farid Al-Atrash, you know, because we were like you know, John is Lebanese, but he's also American. And then you had Ed Abbas, who was Ivorian. And then you can see them in the picture. And Fayez, who's Belarusian, and me, who's Syrian Filipino. And I felt like he was like, these guys didn't have a space, you know, to show their talent. So he's like, I'm gonna bring him in. And I feel the same way, you know. So I did a video clip called Mbappe, and there was a lot of these Filipino Nigerian kids who were like, who grew up in a foster home, and I wanted to empower them. And, you know, right now, I felt, because I didn't have that growing up. So it makes me happy doing that, you know, for other people. So when we did Mbappe, one of the kids right now, he's like a full-blown model, you know.
Really?
Yeah. The other kid, he went to Saudi Arabia. He's also he does like little theater, not really theater, but he does like these fight scenes at a certain carnival, and he got flown to Saudi and he lives there doing that stuff right now. And these kids were like foster home kids, like their parents left him, and they, you know, they didn't know what to do. In Lebanon, they didn't even have the nationality because there's rules in Lebanon that doesn't give people with, you know, well, if you don't have a Lebanese father, you don't get that nationality at all, you know. So these kids were born here without a future. And then I didn't even have an understanding of how, because that was like, we met like 5-6 years ago. I didn't have an understanding that it's actually possible, you know, for them to have a future in this country. And then when I saw that just giving them a little bit of confidence really carries the youth so far, you know. And I come from a generation that I wasn't encouraged to rap, you know, I was always discouraged, you know, and I had to go against the grain. So I want, and it's the same thing with the School of Hip Hop, Madrasat Hip Hop, that I just did this month, every weekend. 100 kids. Right now, this a couple of the production kids and the songwriting kids, rappers, they did songs together. And our last session was on Sunday. Sunday was our last session. They dropped a song on SoundCloud on Sunday, and then today they dropped another song. And it just shows you how much like positive reinforcement can do. And I just didn't have a lot of that. I think I have this little big brother in me that does that, but also the type of big brother is like, yo, fuck off, you know. So it's like,
I feel like there's like this reluctance. Do you view yourself as being the center of a community, or are you just like, no, I just brought everyone here, I gave them a pat on the back, and then I want to get out? Or are you like, no, I want to be the sort of the Pied Piper, I want to be at the center of this?
I think it's a mixed thing. Like I want it, but I don't want it at the same time. So I just end up doing it, and then I try to help as much. Like I don't even notice, like, you know, while I'm doing this stuff, I don't really notice how much I'm helping people, to be honest. You know, it just kind of happens. You know, I just get a attachment to the work itself and succeeding in that job. You know, and then once I pass it, I look back, I'm like, yo, we really did some really good work here, and it's quite fulfilling, you know. But that's where it stops, kind of. Then I'm like,
Before we get into some of the music, which is the main point of the series, the last couple of years in Lebanon have been super intense. Compared to the last decade in Syria, you know, I mean, you can't compare these types of things, but the last decade in Syria has been, you know, overwhelmingly heartbreaking, with an enormous amount of pressure and tension and devastation on, you know, millions of people. How much, and the same can be said about Palestine, even more decades. How connected are these hip hop communities? Just these three sort of like bordering places, but often closed off places.
So you're talking about like Syria,
Lebanon and Palestine.
Lebanon and Palestine. Yeah. Weird. I mean, firstly, the hip hop scene in the Middle East kind of blew up this past 10 years, and more so the past 4 or 5 years. So the connection before, like, between Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine was through the Arab Spring, and there was like a more communal protest sounding vibe, you know, to the music. It was aggressive, it was lyrical, it meant to attack the status quo, you know. And as kind of like how, you know, that thirst fight kind of like dissipated with time because of the failure, you know, of a lot of these protests to actually create change. I don't want to say failure because that's like a strong word, you know, but the non-outcome of what happened.
There's maybe shortcomings,
kind of just made them unfocused with the cause, and then an industry started emerging with this at the same time. And also like places like, you know, like Jordan, where you really can't, you know, question the status quo of that country. And the music that was coming out of there was very introverted about their like mental state, you know, how they saw things. And that opened up a different conversation. And I think allowed more people to express things that didn't get them in trouble, that also not, and also there was like a fatigue, to always talk about the politics, and maybe resulting with all the, the politics that were happening, like what was going on in the Middle East. The kids now, like rappers like Aman, Synaptic, or Msallam, they were talking about the things that was going in their mind instead of what's going outside. And that actually hit more people. People were actually into that a lot more. And then that created room for an industry to be there, and I don't know how, so I don't know how connected it is right now because of how numbers play such a big part, because there is an industry. But 10 years ago, between 2010 to 2014, 15, there was definitely like this connection of having something, a cause, to rap for, But now it's like, if you look at Egypt, sometimes they drop a song and it's like 2 million views in a day or two, so now it's business, and it's a big portion of what we used to do is different now,
Yeah. Okay, I want to get into some of the album. So tell the listeners about Mamluk as an idea, because in some ways it's kind of a concept album. In some ways, there's like a very specific concept behind the album. When did you start working on it, and why is it called Mamluk?
Some song, like I started working on it about like early 2019. The word Mamluk in Arabic, it means being owned, and the Mamluk dynasty that was in Greater Syria, in Egypt, they were the results of slave warriors that raised up in the ranks and took over their specific area and region, which is Egypt, and they ruled that. For me, like being Filipino and Syrian in Lebanon, or Filipino in the Middle East, there is this underlying perception that we are workforce. We are here to be labor, and there's a certain outlook on these people. It's just a stereotype, and I think it came up when I was hanging out with those kids a lot, that this is how they're going to be seen for the whole, their whole lives over here, if this is really their future, if they get stuck in Lebanon and this is how they look like, but they're actually Lebanese, and that goes the same for me. I'm not Arab, and I get treated like such. And now, I hear a lot of talks in the streets, I get treated differently just looking or sounding the way I sound. So Mamluk was like creating like this, like an image for these young guys to look forward to, like this aggressive, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and we're going to take over, and that's what the Mamluk kind of did, the Mamluk dynasty. So it was just creating like this, I don't know, folklore, yes, you could say, that would give confidence to these young kids, which is ever increasing because of how much labor we need in this area,
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, let's listen to the first clip. And do you want to set it up now, or should I play it a little bit and then we talk about it?
Oh, yeah, man. I'll set it up a little bit. We shot this video clip not too long after the Beirut blast, so there's a lot of remnants of that. And the song itself, 2020 Vision, was supposed to wrap up, what me and Arras were going through right during the protests until that point. So it's from 2019 until like what happened right before the blast, because we did the song before the blast, and then when the blast happened, we wanted to show, to present to people what we felt about the blast, and maybe we can show a little bit of it, and then I can,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. All right, let's play a little bit of it. 2020 Vision.
tangle with my angels. Salsa with the devil, offer when the maker. Save the last dance, nothing lasts forever. Keep it simple, Mario in the Nintendo, Sonic on the Sega. Stepping on the Lego, trying to get a leg up. Tanya, Lego with the makeup. I want a homecoming like the last return to Mecca. I came here to Beirut to get a step up. Instead of getting stepped on in this feeling like a setup, I feel the need to step out. They're beefing cause I'm eating, so I'm Kobe in this steakhouse. They wait for my mistakes, so this is stakeout. This ain't in my race, well they be trying to cut my brakes out. Skirt, skirt, emo does the rapping for the takeout and I'm gone. If you're hitting where I'm from, I won't take you where I'm going. When they tell me when to roam, I think Caesar on the throne. It's the twilight on my run, that's because I'm in the zone. I don't wanna have the gun, but a victim, Imagine trying to get a kafala for Malala. To Muslims I've Jannah and then went to Shangri-La. To Christians who think I'm a Salafi who's selling out to make enough money for my people, so I bail them out. Word is bond on a autobahn. Skirt, Mamluk versus on a man. Work, bring the dollars in and no more words. Keep me like a proper man, working double time for half the wage. No attention, but I get all the rage, so I'm always so focused. My blind side's my family. Distracted by bright lights, my eyelids are getting heavy. My cup is empty, but can't wind while sipping whiskey. Why reflect on my past in hindsight? It's 2020.
Many, many, many men wish death on me, trying to get me from my sins. Cause I don't sin similar to them. 2020 vision, I can see him playing on my phone. Many men wish death on me, trying to get me from my sins. Cause I don't sin similar to them. 2020 vision, I can see him playing on my phone.
غربتها عن الناس بتقربني من الله. غربتها عن الحاضر بتقربني من الساور. غربتها عن احساس بتشوفني على اللحن هار. غربتها بس عم جاهد وسع نفسي الله غالب. غربتها بيضحكوا علينا والتر بيت الكبت نحن ريحة وسخة شامة. بعتذر فعلا بعتذر عن كل شي ناكني بحياتي واقع القضاء. والروح تنكسر تتلزق وتنكسر لحد ما نسد بالمزهرية باب الزهر. فكيف بضمها وإذا الطاولة بلا جيرانة ديال الخيبة كيف بلمها. لا القهوة ما للأكل لا الخفة ما للتقل. الطاولة أصلي مطولة قصتي وعارف بس صابر بمعركتي وغارف. بحر جنون بمعلقتي وطالب بتدفى بحريق المصارف. بركي يكون الغضب مأوى فبلوم على الثورة بالملوم على الرب. بشك بكل أحكامي التقوى فبلوم على ظهري قبل ملوم على الشعب. ولكن طبعا في ولكن هي مش غربة صومعات هي غربة ملاكمة. معيش عصاية تركع هزايم بس محروم من القفاز كونه رافض القتال تحت راية أهل باطل. تجار وعمايم تدريب دايم. محمد علي الحايز شرف إصابة لا مش رعش بل تمايل. مثل غربة اسم علي بن أربين اسم عصابة. غربة اسم نبي بن إيدان خاطف مرابي. غربة لبيد وناري بن إيدان عجوز متصابي. والمجتمع بيصرخ مين خطف لانتصابي. إذا ذكر هو العبد يعني الرجول المصابة. والناجي من أوصابه بهالوسات وهلك حرق أحلامه عقلته تخون. فحفرت الغرب مغار فريلا بعد الكر ويحرسني عن كابوس. مناعة من فيروس خيبات بيروت.
Many, many, many men wish death on me, trying to get me from my sins.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to cut Ross's verse, man.
Exactly. I was waiting for the verse, man. So
it's a long verse, but it's hard to cut. You know, it's a really
hard to cut. It's a beautiful verse. So tell us, who is Al-Ras? What does he represent in the community?
Ras is, I think, one of the most revered, Lebanese rappers. He comes from Tripoli. He's also been really active during the protests in 2000, all the protests, for them in the past decade. Very smart person, very eloquent when he speaks as well. And he's also a good friend of mine. So we've been friends for a long time, and I produce songs for him. We hang out a lot, make a lot of beats, and this is actually, and we've been friends for a long time too. And this is actually the first song we've done together. And it was a tough year, right? In 2019 to 2020. Yeah. So we're like, let's wrap it up. Let's talk about how this year was for you. And he was talking about the protests, and I was talking about how I saw, with the protests, with everything, how Lebanon saw me, and how I had to come to a grip with that. And do I fight it? Do I not? I was just like battling within my head. There was like this line, it's like I say, Tanya, let go of the makeup. That was when Tanya Saleh, she had like she had like that. She did like blackface, pretty much on the post, and she had like the afro and everything on her post too.
Yeah, that's right.
Solidarity with BLM, and and then they asked her, like, why would you do that? And she's like, yo, like one of the founding fathers of Islam was Bilal. He was like the one who did the adhan, who called for prayer, and he was the first person who called for prayer. And he's Muslim, and and that, like, it didn't make sense still. So that's why I said, Tanya, let go of the makeup. I want a homecoming like Bilal's return to Mecca. So it's just like you're just so out of touch, and I just want to be welcome home, and not just me specifically, just in general, anybody who's like browner than the shade of Arab, right? So so that was how I was trying to wrap up my year. Even protests, there was like just different instances of like how conflicting it was for me, because some people down in the protests were like anti-Syria and so it really started making me detached from Lebanon. Like, maybe I'm really not part of this, because the protests, it was necessary for them to unite, for a certain cause, but I couldn't unite with that because there were so many conflicting ideas that were down there. At some point I was like, I support, but like I need to step out of it a little bit,
because there's like hyper nationalistic, right? It's not about it stopped really being about Lebanon as much as it was about the quote unquote Lebanese.
Exactly. And so I've been in Lebanon for so long, doing so much in the ground over here that I felt like my voice is not strong enough for that, and it's in turn I started focusing on myself and the people around me, and empowering them, instead of just looking at like me trying to fit in with Lebanon or the Middle East.
Who did the production on the track?
So also, this is where I want to go with the conversation, is like the producer is Zoog and Matthew Najem. He's like one of my old friends. Like, we started making beats together back in like 2004. We were like, we've been friends for like 18 years. And so this is like one of the few tracks that we worked on the album, and I haven't worked with them for a long time, so it was like a pleasure. And he sang the chorus as well. We were writing it together. I had some ideas for the chorus, and then he was like coming up with the flow of it, and then he was singing it for me to write and do. And then I was like, bro, you sound good doing it, man, just like lace it real quick. And also the production started off with the Senegalese producer who was 16 years old, and he sent me like a draft of like some drums, completely different, has nothing to do with what the song is right now. I gave him like credit on the publishing, but like it's what started the whole song, so I started writing on it, and then I went to Zoog, and it's like he completely changed everything, but he was kind of like this jumpstart for that.
Amazing.
So one of the things like I want to talk about the video is like this happened right before after the blast. We shot it right after the blast, and we didn't talk about the blast. And the thing was, we were recording this in Zoog's house, and Zoog was like in Tota, which is like 500-600 meters away from the blast, right? He was on the 11th floor, and when the explosion, happened, actually I got called. The explosion was at 6:07. I got a call from him at 5:45 to go to his house and all hang out, over there and make music and finish the song up, this song. And so I think you're on mute. I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying this song, that's crazy.
And then so I was brushing my teeth to go to his house when the blast happened, and it hit our house as well. And if me and Ras and Zoog were at his house was completely destroyed, like completely. So for us, like how this video, it was like, and it was for real like that. It was like us trying to pick ourselves up from the rubble, because we were all in Mount Khail, we're all like Ashrafia, we live there. So the video clip was meant for us to like get out of the rubble, trying to go to somewhere spiritual, to look down and then find really nothing, and find no real solace, but the quietness of being above everything. That's at least the mental process of why I wrote the storyboard like that. But the most crazy thing about this video was that, you know, the first shot and we're in the building that overlooks the actual port. I was scouting that, and then I had it on my stories while I was scouting. And then it was a friend of mine from Syria. She hits me up and she's like, "Yo, that's actually the rooftop, or like in the same building I live in, you know."
Which got destroyed.
Which got completely destroyed, and her husband died in the blast.
Oh my God.
So and then I was like, Shant, and you know, that's why I have his name at the end. And then I was like, I'm sorry, you know, we were gonna shoot a video for this, and I don't want it to be triggering. So if it is, let's not, you know. And then she's like, she thought about it, and we had a conversation, and then she was like, how's the video clip gonna be? So I kind of explained it and said, we're gonna end up in Harissa, you know, like you start off and, you know, explain the video, and we end up in Harissa. And she's like, well, Harissa is like Shant's favorite place in the world, you know.
Oh, beautiful.
So for her to be like, okay, that's why she said okay, you know, because of that connection. And I think that's really what the video clip was about. It's like us going and trying to find a connection, a meaning, you know, for things to happen, especially when something tragic happens. You always kind of like try to search for meaning, and you really never really find it. You just kind of try to validate some sort of meaning for yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah, very tragic. Well, thanks for giving us the backstory. Really, really beautiful. Let's move on to interlude number 2, which is Kayfouni, also off the album. Do you want to give us a little background on this before we can start, or should we listen to it first?
Let's listen to it first.
Okay. I'm going to probably play just a few minutes of it.
Yeah. It's quite repetitive.
جماعة احنا هنتكلم في موضوع ناس كتير سألوني فيه، يعني استحالة اتنين يتشابهوا مع بعض وكل واحد يعمل نفس الدماغ، لا ده بيبقى دماغه في حتة والتاني في حتة تانية. طب ازاي؟ اديكم كمثال.
عبت لي راسي فبمزمز اعطيني دينتك وبوشوش جبيلي الورا راح لفلف حوالي سيري والسبجكت هالورا زقزق فبزقزق لف الموضوع بركي تلزق لساني زاحط فبقحط يلا خليني جدد. عبت لي راسي فبمزمز اعطيني دينتك وبوشوش جبيلي الورا راح لفلف حوالي سيري والسبجكت هالورا زقزق فبزقزق لف الموضوع بركي تلزق لساني زاحط فبقحط يلا خليني جدد.
متقلق ومايل للتغيير بلا تبرير، تكرار الوحي من دون تكرير ولا بربير، هات تنطير على بكير اهلا فيك راح فرجيك شو بيعمل فيك ألم البيك. فريك سو فريك شريك بلا تصميم بلا بطيخ بلا كراكيب هيك ربيت عحب الكل we still have the will ما فينا نفل الحب يقل بيخلينا نمل علمونا اشياء جديدة تنعمل تشكيلي على بنا بلا طول تسيري على بنا مبسوط بلش يشكيلي لعب برو let's off road مع جو برو ليش ماشي عسلومو مثل شي كوكروتش مع لوجو عسلامته وهو بارن بوز الدنيا حزوز انت كيوت تحط ميوت تجيب فيوز حربوق مرموق فيك تقول الباسبارتو مبروك النمبر 1 ما في نمبر 2.
كيفوني بدن يشمسوني وضع شدي هون في جيب موني من يموني والله زهقوني acting like they know me yeah they want the old shit but I came back with the new me عبالن يسكتوني فبعدهم بيقولولي شينو come fix it فبعطيكم بس جيبولي والله زهقوني acting like they know me yeah they want the old shit but I came back with the new me. كيفوني بدن يشمسوني وضع شدي هون في جيب موني من يموني والله زهقوني acting like they know me yeah they want the old shit but I came back with the new me عبالن يسكتوني وبعدهم بيقولولي شينو come fix it فبعطيكم بس جيبولي والله زهقوني acting like they know me yeah they want the old shit but I came back with the new me. عبت لي راسي فبمزمز اعطيني دينتك وبوشوش جبيلي الورا حوالي سيري والسبجكت هالورا.
I love this song.
Like over here, you know, like right after I kind of put my hand on the camera and it opens up and says somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of like how this, you can keep it like on mute, that's cool. And yeah, right over here and then go somewhere else. So that this happened. We shot this on Riwalk, which is like one of the cafes that I really love hanging out in. And then I put my hand on the lens. It's like a one shot. And then we were supposed to be like, okay, we do this in Riwalk. Everybody's rolling, but nobody's actually smoking, you know, in the whole video. And then when I try to smoke, I kind of put my hand there because we were supposed to shoot the second half in Amsterdam because the second rapper lives in Belgium, and we were supposed to go there and shoot the second half over there. But COVID happened. So the Riwalk shoot was actually the first day of like lockdown in Lebanon,
like March 2020.
Yeah, exactly. We shot that on March 2020, and I had my tickets to Amsterdam. Actually, we were ready to do it, and we had to cancel everything, which was like, it is what it is. We still shot it, and we really like how it turned out, so it don't matter. But also, you also played keys on this.
I have my little do.
Also on there's like a bunch of keys also on the choruses, in the outro. You played a bunch of stuff, and I kind of moved it around, which kind of added a lot of like vibe to it, because I'm not really a musician, I don't know music really well, so I really rely on samples and stuff like that. I played the bass, I played a bunch of the stuff, but I'm not really, I'm not like, I don't know music, like.
Well, you're obviously a musician. You have an incredible ear, and you have a very specific sound that you look for. But you're obviously a musician, not only as a writer and as a rapper, but as a producer. Like, you have a very specific ear and taste.
Yeah, this is actually this beat. Thanks, man. And this beat, like I did in 2017, and it stayed on my MPC, for the longest time. And the chorus is actually just this humming thing I had for a year or so in my head, just in the back of my head. I had that in my head like for a year before I recorded and put words to it. So it's one of those tracks that I felt like, it could get that if it was stuck in my head for so long, it's going to get stuck in a lot of people's heads.
Okay, so here's another example, right? We've played two tracks so far. They both have very, very good features on them, right?
Yeah.
This goes back to my community thing, right? Like, on one side you're like a guy who just wants to chill in his own room doing his own music, but at the same time you're like featuring people constantly. So who did you feature? Because this verse, I love this first verse. Who are these people?
So Samir Abdul Karim, he's like, he's an old friend of Farid Al-Atrash, he's friends with Ed Abbas, and he doesn't really do a lot of, music, he's a professional, he works in Nigeria, he lives there. But I really love his laid back flow.
It's so good.
Yeah. And actually we did this song. It wasn't supposed to be in the album. I just made the beat, and he loved the beat. And then he came over, and then he dropped his verse really quick. He wrote something, came over, recorded it. And then we started knocking out the chorus and the bridges, and we're like, yo, this sounds really fly. And then he's in a crew with Ed Abbas called Tayrat Al-Ruh, and Omar Zainuddin, the other rapper, he's in the same crew. So I was like, yo, maybe we try to get Zainuddin on the track. It'll be fun. And, we're a bunch of smokers too. So, it was fun, man.
Natural.
Yeah. It was just. Go ahead.
I want to ask you about writing the verses. How do you decide when to write a verse exclusively in Arabic or exclusively in English? Is it a decision, or just how it comes out?
It's how it comes out, man. I have a song, Vini Vidi Vici, that starts out in English, and halfway through it becomes Arabic. It's just how I feel. I do prefer writing in English. Like it's actually just easier for me to express. In Arabic, I'm kind of just like, it feels like it's like I'm building, I'm finding the blocks and putting them together, while English, it feels like, if I'm trying to express it, like trying to explain how the process is, English feels like I got clay and I'm molding something. Yeah. It's more fluid in that way. But Arabic seems like I'm building blocks, because I have to go and find the blocks. while in English it feels like the reservoir is open, where I can just, because I think in English, so there isn't this. So if you want to think about it, like it's like I'm taking the clay, and I'm taking the clay and then I'm making blocks out of it, because I translate it kind of in my head.
Yeah.
And then I start building the blocks. So it's like an extra process.
Rhythmically, do you feel, because like 2020, for example, like your verse in 2020, rhythmically, you're doing a lot of really interesting things, right? Like you're ending rhymes off, not exactly at the end of the bar. You're doing a lot of like really interesting stuff rhythmically. That's not the way, it's not the sort of like Melly Mel style, like do 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 boo ba do ba do boo ba ba da ba 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 da ba da ba, right?
Yeah.
Like you're doing really interesting things. Do you feel like you can also do that in Arabic in the same way?
Yeah, I could do that definitely in Arabic. Similarly, so the rhythm stuff, it's more like how I want to say things. Yeah. And also the rhythm kind of follows, for me at least, the rhythm follows the ideas, so if I get certain ideas and certain phrases come from that like thought, then I might build according to the amount of syllables in there or what word comes first, I'll start building a rhythm, a different kind of flow, chop it up differently according to that word,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's listen to Fresh Money. It's the third interlude, and then we'll talk about it. Do you want to say anything before we play it?
Nah, man, no. I'm in the bank right now, so.
There you go. It's perfect. All right, here we go.
I don't put money in the bank, keep a stash, then the MoneyGram that to my aunt. She then moves that to my mama account. Monsoon come and fix the roof to my mama house. Got my gloves on for this dirty work. Left my love back home for this dirty work. You can mug me for this dirty work. Just pay me clean money for this dirty work. Baby girl on my bed and she counted them G's. Excess spread come balance my sheets. Police my cash at the bank's like freeze. So I keep my cheese in the pocket like quiche. When you sleep on money you get better dreams, but they keep on sweating me like ephedrine. When $100 turns to a million, turn Beirut to Medellin. 1 for the love, 2, 3, 4 for the money. If you do it for show, get ready cause you're gon' go hungry. You'll only get the picture when you photo bummy. I'm in it for the long haul money. Intro rich but your outro bummy. Trying to get your cash flow running. Step into the bank and the bank's got nothing. Now you're trying to load up, hold up. They trying to hold my dough up. Donuts, cause your dough hold up. It's a hold up, it's a hold up. Now you're trying to load up, hold up. They trying to hold my dough up. Donuts, cause your dough hold up. It's a hold up, it's a hold up. Stick up, money in the bank. Stick up, money in the bank. Money in the bank. Money in the bank. Mommy and daddy gave you all money, comfy and happy with a full tummy. Me I'm more hungry and angsty. Off the wall, no paper trail like Banksy. I do this for big.
So that song is so funny.
Yeah. And what's funny is like me and Zug are like, I'm not a banker anymore, but Zug is still an actual banker. Like he works in finance, and for us to make a song like I don't put money in the bank, it feels hilarious, but it's the climate we're in. And I had to look at it from a different perspective. I start off with like, because in Philippines, we want fresh money too, we don't use that terminology, but that's what a lot of people live on,
cash money.
Yeah, like fresh money from the outside, because we Western Union that stuff. I say MoneyGram, but we Western Union that stuff at home. And that's what I've been doing for a long time, so that concept is just like, for me, it's like so melded, with each other, with what's going on in Lebanon, and how the recession was like, and inflation was hitting Lebanon. And at the same time, Filipinos need to get their money and send it back home, or me at least, and the balance of that, and how they're feeling exactly the same thing right now. Like Lebanon now really, really needs fresh money, for the economy to move forward. And then there was a certain level of racism towards Filipinos or, you know, Africans who work over here, or Sri Lankans, or, you know, whatever. And so it feels like it's a weird turn of events, you know, kind of. Yeah.
It's probably the best thing that could happen to Lebanon.
Man, I don't want to say that, man. It's tough on people right now, but
it's tough on people for sure. But like, but on this point, right? On the point of like humanizing this very, very human experience, right?
Yeah.
Of like being in a tough spot and relying on help.
Exactly. You know, and you know, the idea is really to say that, dude, we're like so similar. Like our need for the outside world is exactly the same. You know, maybe we had a little mirage of what was the economy of Lebanon 10 years before the crash, you know, but we really rely on the outside, and we have a community in Lebanon that's like, there's way more people outside Lebanon than inside Lebanon, you know, and that's a big part of our economy. And that's the same thing for a lot of these third world countries. And we wouldn't, and people in Lebanon never want to, you know, to accept that fact.
Yeah. No, it's it's true. That's, by the way, Mirage is a really good name for an album. So if you're looking for a follow-up to Mamluk, that's a good one.
It's tough, man. Coming out with like names for an album for me, it's I have to live life, you know. I need to live life to a certain extent, and I need to write a lot of songs until I understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And then when that idea starts formulating, then I start hunting for like the idea that represents this moment of my life, you know. So my album Making Music to Feel at Home was me traveling around and what was going around in Syria, you know, like me trying to assimilate with, you know, the place I'm in, knowing that I've never assimilated before in the Middle East. So I felt like I had like this you know, head start and trying to, you know, before the Syrian like revolution was happening and the exile of all the Syrians, I felt like I had a head start of trying to assimilate. So I was like, you know, trying to vocalize my advantage.
Yeah.
And then Mamluk was like this other phase. So of like me saying, okay, I don't fit in, fuck y'all, this is who I am, and we out here trying to make this money.
Real talk. Okay, 4 quick rapid fire questions and we're going to call it a night. What are you listening to these days?
Pop Smoke and Tyler, the Creator.
Yeah, Tyler's new album is good.
Yeah, so I got like from really like loud drill, you know, heavy bass to like Tyler's you know, Igor album is still on my regular rotation.
Okay. Who would you love to shadow for a day, past or present?
My dad, you know, I haven't seen him for a while and he's been acting really weird. And then he has crazy adventures, man. And he's at the cops every now and then in the Philippines. Like, I don't know what he's doing, bro. So I think he's always in the back of my mind, and I'd really like to know what he's actually up to. Like, how does he get himself in these situations? So definitely my dad.
Mirage. Okay. What do people most misunderstand about your work?
That I'm too critical about, like, you know, I'm in the Middle East, so they feel like it's attack on their society when I start vocalizing songs like Mamluk, and when I did this song like OPP, which was about a suicide bomber, and, you know, and Fight or Flight. Like, a lot of these songs feels like an unacceptable criticism from a non-Arab, you know, which is ridiculous to me because I'm Syrian, you know, and I think that's most.
Yeah, even like the pronoun, like their society.
Yeah.
It's our society.
Exactly. You know, so yeah. And I've never felt that way anyways. So
yeah, maybe
that the less I feel like I'm assimilated to it, the more I want to go against it and criticize it, you know. And yeah.
Where would you say most of your core fan base, like what's the sort of like the core fan base?
Actually, I don't have too much from Lebanon. Like it's not my most, place that people listen to me at. A lot of them are from Europe and Jordan and Palestine. Weirdly enough, and cool. It's more like the expat community.
Yeah. Do you have a big fan base in Syria?
A little bit, not because it doesn't really register, on my Spotify.
Exactly. I forgot about that because Syria, they won't register it. Yeah.
So, but like when I was walking around in Syria, and it was COVID, I was wearing a mask and a lot of people was stopping me, trying to get a photo and stuff. But which is funny because I'm wearing a mask. Then I realized I'm probably the only one wearing a mask in Syria, So they're like, who's this weirdo with a mask? Oh shit, it's Chyno.
That's hilarious.
They make fun of me, man. When I was there, I jumped into a bus of like 100 people in the bus, man. And my uncle, I felt bad because they didn't have gas, petrol. There's like, in March or something like that. So I walk in and then I didn't want to sound like my uncle's like, yo, gas is expensive, so taxis are going to be expensive. I'm like, I didn't want to be like, yo, I'll pay for it. Because my uncle is like, it's expensive. So I didn't want to be like, yo, this bougie person that comes to Syria, like, I'll pay for the taxi. Don't you worry about it. So I'm like, I'm gonna jump in the bus with my uncle, and then it's just like people all over, and I'm wearing a mask and I'm like, nah.
The mask ain't doing anything.
I told my uncle, we hopped out and then we were doing like paperwork. I was like, we're never taking a bus again. I'll pay for that shit. Like I just suddenly became a dick, as soon as it came out. Yeah.
Okay, so what artist from the past would be your dream collaborator?
From the past, dream collaborator. He's not active right now.
Doesn't matter. Who comes to mind?
I think I don't know. I don't know why it's in my mind. Pete Rock when you said like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I felt like, like I just love it. Everything's kind of chill and relaxed, and I don't know why my mind went there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure because when I saw this question before, I was gonna say Childish Gambino or Tyler Creator, but now when I saw it, they said the past. The first thing that popped in my head was Pete Rock.
Watch the needle drop. All right, cool. I thought you were going to say Lauryn Hill. That's who I thought you were going to say.
Nah, man. I heard like too many things, aside from the music about Lauryn Hill that I don't really want to meet her, to be honest. Like one of those, keep your legends away from you so you can appreciate them more. Like, I think I have that, about her. And there's certain actually artists that I might not really want to meet. Like I don't know if I really want to meet Kanye. Like
he's the quintessential answer to this question.
And I would, he's I think the most inspirational like artist to me. Like I started listening to soul music because of him. Because of him and Just Blaze and the whole Rockefeller sound back in the days. I started searching for soul samples and going through records because of him. And also different phases of being making introverted raps, self-critical raps.
I'm not what's the line? We're all self-conscious. I'm just the first to admit it.
Exactly. And I think that made me feel like I didn't have to do what was currently over there, what was happening. It gave me the confidence to say, yo, tell your story regardless of maybe how different it is. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence to do what I do.
For sure. Okay, if you're listening, you can find Chyno on Instagram, on Twitter, on everywhere. Just search Chyno with a Y or just look up Chyno online. And if you're watching, go check out the music. It's all on YouTube and you can find it on Spotify, wherever you find your streaming platforms.
Yes, please check the music out.
All right, Chyno, man, this is so much fun. Thanks for letting me do this with you.
It's my pleasure, man. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a good day or night wherever you are.